Chitra, should we start?
No, sir. Wait 1 minute. You are not switching on your cameras, or should I also switch off?
No, my camera is not working. There's something is wrong, I think, with my computer. And I thought I could do it with my phone, but I just no. I think we need need the visual thing. Mine is unfortunately not working. Chitrakshi, you also have
So we can
problem?
start.
Okay, thank you, Chitrakshi. I think uh, well, friends and colleagues, most welcome to this important conversation, second conversation.
So you have to be a little louder, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now, a
Yeah,
little
okay.
better.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining. I think let me first thank Dr. Janakarajan and Dr. Nupur Bahadur.
Sir, very less. Sir, could you please come near to your mic or something?
Now?
No, sir, it's not better. It's.
Hello?
So this is fine, but when you speak it again,
Hello?
This is better. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me. Hello. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chitrakshi, and I'm very sorry that Janakarajan sir has difficulty joining. I hope he will. Otherwise, we will have problem. Anyway, so friends and colleagues, most welcome to this second episode of the conversation that we started on water in cities. My first task is to obviously thank Dr. Janakarajan and Dr. Nupur Bahadur for the time. Both of them are extremely busy people, and I'm very delighted that they have made time for this particular conversation. As a matter of fact, as you probably know, we had scheduled this earlier on 21st, and then she had an important meeting in the ministry, and we had to kind of postpone this. And I'm very glad we are able to do it today. I also must, because I tend to forget this, at the end of the webinar. Let me also thank my colleague Chitrakshi and my colleague Bhuma Ji for enormous amount of behind the scene work they do. It is because of them that this series is happening. But for them, I don't think we'll be able to kind of put this together. As I told you, this is the second episode of the conversation on water in the cities, and what we're talking about is the water in Indian cities. And today we are going to see a futuristic analysis. As some of you must have known, the first one that we had 2 weeks ago was done by Dr. Anjali Mohan and Ashwishanath from Bangalore. They both are from Bangalore. They are familiar with the crisis in Bangalore, and they gave a very interesting account of themselves by a very interesting conversation. Let me also tell you that this is a slight departure in the way we work. Let me tell you this, that we have been doing this webinar series for last 3 years almost, and this is probably 110th webinar. And we have been essentially focusing on one subject, and that is rethinking city. We're talking about rethinking city across the globe, but largely, predominantly, where things are shaping. We are talking about Rethinking Indian City. And in this series that we've been running for last 3 years, we have had more than 500 urban specialists and experts and solution makers talking to us on not less than 50 themes and sub themes. So it has been hugely educating experience for us that we were doing this. Today, as I said, is the 113th, 113 uh, uh, webinar on Rethinking City. Let me very before I really introduce you to Dr. Nupur Bahadur and Janak Saab. Has Janak Saab joined or not yet?
No, sir,
Uh,
he's just joining.
Not yet.
No,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, let me see. Let me continue, and I think so that I don't waste more time. So I just said that I think before I introduce both the speakers today, those who are going to converse, let me kind of tell you briefly why we've been doing this for last 3 years. This Rethinking City webinar series. Uh, and I think while talking about this, I have largely every time there's a webinar, I introduce it and I talk about all kind of things. But the major theme, the major narrative that I talk about are essentially four-part narrative. The first part is that that we as people, we as government, and we as professionals have not really understood the enormity and complexity of India's urban challenge. And I really say, with all the emphasis at my command, that we have not, and we as when I say we, I mean everyone. That includes government, we include professionals, we include people, have not understood enormity and complexity of the urban challenge. And that lack of understanding reflects in the response pattern and gives us the quality of cities we have, be that small or big cities, old or new cities. And they also reflect on issues such as infrastructure, governance, water, environment, housing, climate change. You look at it's a huge list, which varies up. And though the cities are known to be the engines of growth, they are saddled with multiple and multidimensional challenges. And our first major task in channeling the urbanization process and managing growth and planning development of our cities is to find new directions and better working solutions. So this is the first thing I'm saying. That the urban challenge is complex and vast, and we've got to kind of find new directions and better working solutions. And I usually quote my old friend Wally Dow, who was the Secretary General of Habitat to the the United Nations Habitat Conference that took place in 1996 in Istanbul. He said that time has come that unless there is a revolution in urban problem solving, we are not going to go very far. And that our normal approaches and our normal solutions are unlike to work. We essentially need a paradigm shift. That is the first thing that we talk about. The second thing that I talk about is this: the second matter that I emphasize is that government is at work. with policies, programs, plans, schemes, investment, institutions, regulatory framework. We had JNNURM, we had Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, we have smart cities projects, we have sanitation drive with millions of toilet, and all that is good. But the fact is, this work is not of the government alone, and much more requires to be done. The third point I make is that there are many resources, and this to me is very important, outside the government system, in the private sector, and even in the non-profit sector too. If we look for them and if you could tap them to address the urban challenge better. And the last point we make time and again is this, that we need a major societal partnership to meet the urban challenge better. What I'm saying is this, that government, civil society, private sector all need to come together on purpose to work up together in a working manner. And we believe strongly that those combined resources, if they work in tandem, will give us a better measure of the challenge and equip us for a better response to the urban challenge. So these are the kind of four things that I've been repeatedly at Notion, and we've been saying that this is why we are doing these webinars. Uh, and this webinar series is a modest effort and is seen as a contribution to forging that much needed societal partnership. That this is an effort towards that. Not enough, but certainly consistent, certainly that we're trying out for the last 5 years. We've done over 100 webinars, and we have committed to doing not less than 150 to 200 as we go along. So that is something in terms of why we are doing this. The whole issue of water that we have been trying to address, we have addressed it earlier as well. We had 4 webinars on water, but we also had, a response to the crisis that is happening in Bangalore, and we had a few meeting and conversation, and this is an additional one. I must also tell you, and I was telling this to Dr. Nupur a little earlier, that we are planning in July and August a town hall on water, and intend getting 30, 40 experts of the subject in 2 sessions, not only to talk about the whole issue, but also bring out a white paper in terms of how should we go about doing, what should we do to deal with this water crisis that we have. So with that, let me very briefly introduce Professor Janakarajan. Has Janakarajan joined yet?
Yes, sir.
Not yet?
Yeah, he's
Yes, sir,
there.
he has come.
तो जनक साहब कहाँ खो गए थे आप?
So you have to unmute.
Okay,
You
I think
have
let
to
me.
unmute.
Janak Saab, you're mute. Janak Saab, you're mute. I'm not able to hear you. Huh. I'm sorry you got delayed so much, and I talked so much, but you heard me before, so not an issue. So let me finish then. I think the last part of my early introduction. Professor Janakarajan is a former professor at MIDS and is currently president of South Asia Consortium for Interdisciplinary Water Resources Studies. He has been working on water and environment related issues in South India for over 20 years and has carried out many research projects in several river basins with particular reference to surface and groundwater management, problems of water market, water rights, water laws, water pollution, and issues of water governance. His areas of interest are rural and agrarian development, disaster management, water management, environment, and markets, and has published 4 books on this subject. We're going to hear, and I've been very impressed whenever I hear him on the subject. So we look forward to hearing him. Dr. Nupur is a senior fellow and associate director at the Center for Excellence on Water Reuse at TERI, the Energy Research Institute. She's a founder of, I don't know exactly, NMCG, and I'm sure she'll explain TERI, on water reuse established by Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India, and TERI. For 24 years of work experience, she has in research and development, innovation, IP technology, development and commercialization, teaching, policy, advocacy, capacity building, and consultancy. Her areas of experience are nanotechnology, material science, advanced oxidation, photocatalysis, water resource, solar disinfection, circular economy, GHG emissions mitigation, and net zero and wastewater sector. I think there's so much that I won't be able to read it. Let me kind of leave it to them to introduce more. But with this long introduction, especially because Janakarajan was not joining, I leave it to 2 of them to talk it over on the subject of water and cities. Thank you very much. That's up. Is he able to? Is he Janak Saab? Chitrakshi, what is happening is if he's not, then I think what I should do is Nupurji, considering the emergency that we have at the moment, and Professor Janakarajan has joined, but somehow we are not able to hear him. It appears that he might have an additional, a new problem of connectivity. Why don't you really start? Now, I don't know exactly how to start because our understanding was this, that Professor Janakarajan was to kind of ask questions. Now, I could take those questions up and ask them, but
start with the questions if you have with them.
no, so what I'm suggesting that instead of my doing it, why don't you do the introductory kind of thing? And hopefully, I think Janak joins, we could pick up from there. Why don't you kind of, I think subject, as you know very well, is
no
we
problem.
essentially talking about our work is on cities.
Yeah.
We know one of the major problems the cities are facing is water.
Yeah.
And Bangalore's crisis is not an isolated example. As a matter of fact, a large number of cities are either there or about to reach there. And you are one of the experts in TERI, and you have done enormous amount of work also with the government of India. So we would want to understand how do you think, is this something, because last meeting I was talking about that World Bank is to say that the last set of wars were about or for oil, and the next set of wars most probably are going to be around water. That is the situation. All our cities are dependent on water, on sources. We are polluted, we are destroyed. We are not really kind of using our water resources very well. So I don't want to go into all that, but please tell us as an expert, how do you look at this?
Sure. Thank you.
And we're looking for solutions. We're looking
Yeah.
for approaches.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Definitely. And thank you, Mr. Shah, and your foundation for having me here this second episode. And what I heard, 113th episode. So, congratulations for running such a successful dialogue series. So, and topics have been pertinent. So, it's my pleasure to be here and sharing my some humble experience which I've had during this time. So when you particularly mention about the Bangalore water crisis, which is very recent and something very recent we generally have with us. So if and actually I got to know much about Bangalore through a recent World Bank project which we did, and we came to know more about the water management, the BWSSB, the work BWSSB has been doing. It's most progressive, one of the most progressive utilities in the country. And so this way we came to know. And recently also I got a chance to write about the Bengaluru water crisis. So to understand the real problem, it's Bengaluru is just one case. One case we could have, we have similar cases in recent past as well. So if talking about Bengaluru, I think the earlier in your last series, speakers were from Bengaluru. They might be having more comprehensive and detailed view. What I have generally I have understood, and very recently an article came in the Deccan Herald. So where I actually what we have to see in Bangalore water crisis, it's the uh, time specific. Like it's not a pertinent problem, but it is a problem which is coming up. And if steps are not taken immediately, it may persist for a longer times. So therefore, to understand the problem, particularly of Bangalore, we also have to understand first the geographical reasons, what makes it vulnerable. So the geographical location of Bangalore is it is at a height of 920 meters above sea level in a valley. And the water which comes to Bangalore through four reservoirs is covering over 100 kilometers to reach. So just imagine reaching out water at an elevated location is also highly resource and energy intensive. So this adds up to operational maintenance and financial woes of BWSSB, particularly when we are talking of management. Then when we say supply side, then the current water scenario in Bangalore is particularly, if we see the whole demand side, now we come to the demand side. So if the water demand stands to 2100 MLDs, then the supply from Kaveri Basin is 1450, which means a deficit of 650 is there. And second reason has been the erratic rainfall in 2023, so little short uh, from 369 average millimeter to 271 millimeters, which was obtained last year. So this way it was specific last year. And also a lot of desilting efforts are going on in major lakes like Belandur and Varthul, which are depleting the groundwater reserves. And if we also look at the reasons, so situation is compounded by rapid urbanization, disappearance of the lakes, which have been for decades. It has they have been supporting the water sources, and the rapid urbanization has led to over reliance on bore wells and tankers. So this has brought huge dependence of the urban population in these two sector areas like borewells and the tankers. So this is, I could say, synopsize the problem. And as a after our work and with the World Bank project for BWSSB, we have devised various strategies for treated water reuse. And I think, as Mr. Shah, you're asking for the solutions. So I think the most in situation like Bengaluru, uh, the most reliable source, or it could be true for any city in the country, the most reliable source could be none other than the treated used water or
I
wastewater.
think I have not joined.
So,
No, unmute.
so this is where the role of treated used water could be an assured source for any city. If we talk of Bengaluru, it has already been using the treated used water, and for 85% is being treated from that which is discharged. So around 1440 mlds is generated and 85% is being treated, and out of that 40% is discharged to rivers, 35% is discharged to rejuvenation of lakes, and remaining small percent is also given for industrial reuse. So that way Bengaluru BWSSB is doing its bit for utilizing the treated wastewater. But certainly we can look up for more measures if we have to see as a water secure city as a whole. So we have to think on the urban planning aspects of not just Bangalore, it could be any city. So we have to look at creating sponge cities with the rejuvenation of lakes and water bodies. We have to see commercial utilization of treated wastewater. If more treated used water can be supplied, for example, currently 18 MLD is only supplied for commercial reuse from 24 STPs and for 24 secondary treatment plants and 4 tertiary treatment plants. Which means if we can enhance the treated water reuse, it can also create a market and help the utilities for the survival. Also, particularly, BWSSB required some policy interventions in their procurement so that if advanced technology interventions have to be made, so we can look for long-term sustainable solutions because advanced technologies they have an ROI with 15 years and more. So if we can have longer procurement policy, so those aspects on policy, procurement, PPP partnerships have to be looked, and also a very big role of capacity building, public perception, educating the masses, involvement of the people will certainly help our cities cope better with their water problems.
Well, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Janakarajan still seems to have problem. Let me
No,
then ask.
no, I think
No, sir,
I
he
think
has joined.
no, I could no join.
Have you joined, Janak sir?
Can you hear me?
Are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah, can you hear me, Kirtibhai?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
But fine. Then continue. We already have
Okay.
small little kind of
No.
presentation.
Yeah, my
by
profound
Dr.
apologies. Yeah,
No problem.
yeah, my profound apologies to everybody. That is a huge technical problem, and I couldn't really get out of it. And I'm still having the problem, and I'm trying my best to really interact and trying to engage in the conversation. Let me first of all thank Kirtibai for this opportunity. It's a wonderful event and a wonderful platform. The first of its kind, probably, of something like engaging in conversation on a very, very important topic is about uh, cities and the water.
We have problem here, you Janak sir.
I was trying to Nupur.
Yes, sir.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir, I
better.
can hear
Yeah,
you.
okay.
So
I was
let
just
us start.
thinking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I was just thinking, Nupur. Yeah, please go on.
yeah, please let
No,
me know. So Mr. Shah was asking me about the Bangalore water crisis and probable the article which I wrote recently. So we were discussing that. So if like if we can start our discussion. So if I may ask, so let us start. So I think with your experience, Professor Janak, you have vast experience, and like how do you see the water shortages impacting the future of Indian cities? It's a broad question, I think, but you I'm sure you would respond.
No, actually, very good question. It is actually water shortage or a water scarcity that we have been encountering in all major cities in the country and in South Asia, I would say, is actually a problem which we have got accumulated over a long period of time. And it's not that it has happened today. And if you really look at our problem 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, it was just there, but then we were not worrying about it. We never cared. Now that the problem has really touched the peak, then we are really worrying now. But then added with that problem is the climate change issues. Now the issue is that now our rainfall has not come down, okay, and our rainfall more or less remains the same, or it has even gone up. And unfortunately, what has really happened is the reduction in the number of rainy days. So we get the same amount of the rainfall in a shorter duration. So that's what is really happening. But then we are not prepared enough to tap the water when it rains. So that's precisely the problem. So how to really tap the water? That is one issue which is really happening. But at the same time, our urban population has gone up tremendously. Now that 3 decades ago, the number of cities that have exceeded 10 million country is hardly 100 to talk about Mumbai. Today, many cities across
So problem hearing you.
Mumbai.
Janak sir, we have some problem.
So,
Your voice is breaking. May I suggest if you can use your mobile as a hotspot, that is a reliable source. Then the Wi-Fi of the home, if you are there.
I have a serious
Yeah,
technical.
okay, you're back, Janak sir. Okay,
No problem, sir. No problem.
Serious
Continue.
technical problem.
we can
Continue,
hear
sir.
you.
It's beyond my control. So I tried my best, but I couldn't. I
No,
couldn't really help.
no problem. Please continue.
Unexpected. So the issue is that on the one hand, our urban expansion has been rapid, industrial expansion has been rapid, and at the same time, we have got the problems of climate change induced negativity, and most importantly, we have also been losing the water bodies where we could have saved water. That's precisely the problem we encountered in Bangalore, and we see that so much in Chennai and in many other cities. So we are losing the water bodies, we are losing the wetlands, but at the same time, our water demand has been going up. So there are two issues going in the opposite direction. So that is why we are really encountering the problem of water scarcity, increasing water scarcity. Now, what we are going to do, rather than Niti Ayog has been saying that many cities are going to touch the 0 day. Well, we are touching the 0 day, but unfortunately, we don't have the plans. We don't have the plans, but the competing demand for water is the serious issue. We have got the competing demand not only for water needs, I mean, of drinking water, but also industrial need, ecosystem needs, and the peri-urban areas. We still have agriculture. So what are we going to do? But we are losing all the water bodies. So this is a critical issue in which we are there, and at the same time, we don't have a comprehensive plan, not only for land use but also for urban water use. So this has to be a kind of we need to have an integrated plan. Unless we have the integrated plan of land and water, we won't be able to solve it. We
Exactly.
only
Professor, we have lost you again. Please try. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I think everyone knows
urban
that
water. There are, see, the Nupur, there are.
Please come in.
Yeah, I think you have made your point very well, and we understand how water security is impacting. So
Yeah.
good. And continuing with that, how do you see the role of nature-based solutions as a forward step towards having water security in the cities?
You know, nature-based solutions is something which is something extremely important, which many cities in the world, across the world, are now resorting to, because we have done the damage in the cities. We have done the damage in the sense that the permeable surface is so high. After the precipitation, there is very little water that percolates. So we don't have the space for percolation. So we are losing the greenery. We are losing the points for circulation. We are losing the wetlands. We are losing the water bodies, and we don't have space to store. So therefore, the surface runoff, when there is a rainfall, the surface runoff is something like 90 to 95%. So we get rainfall, but we are not able to save. That's a problem. That is why worldwide, since the damage has been done, thinking that worldwide people are thinking about resorting to what is called nature-based solutions. What are the nature-based solutions? The nature-based solutions are like something like resorting to roof water rainwater harvesting. Okay, you do the rainwater harvesting. So the slogan should be, the water that falls on your roof and on your plot of land is your water, you conserve it. Don't allow the water to come to the streets and then run off. And secondly, wherever possible, you should try to hold water. So we are resorting to what is called holding ponds, holding space, and people also calling it constructed wetland. So think about constructing wetland. Think about creating temporary holding ponds. So arrest the surface runoff, allow the water to percolate, allow the water to tap and then hold in ponds, temple tanks, and wherever possible. So and most importantly, in and now people are thinking about having series of underground the reservoirs. In Japan, they have developed underground reservoirs. So we have to have underneath the highways, have a kilometers length of the underground reservoirs, basically with you to holding water. And recently people have also been thinking about converting the parks and the playgrounds in the cities, school playgrounds, college playgrounds, and so on, as a temporary holding must to arrest water, hold water, allow the water to percolate. So
Great.
I also go to the extent, I will also go to the extent of saying there are many failed bore wells. Why not convert all the failed bore wells into rainwater harvesting structures? So the
Great
idea
idea.
the idea is actually to arrest the seawater intrusion, hold water, and allow the water to percolate and let the groundwater come up. And this is extremely important, because if you don't do it, we are listen, Nupur, we are depending upon, even now, 60 to 70% of our drinking water comes from groundwater. But we have been depleting. We are almost reaching the stage of the depletion. There's going to be no water. And in the coastal cities, because we are depleting, the seawater intrusion is taking place on a massive scale. In Chennai, in many parts of northern Chennai, seawater has intruded up to 14 kilometers inside.
Oh,
Yeah, it's happening in many coastal cities. In
this is
Calcutta
also
is
brings
worse,
the
and
problem.
Bombay it's happening.
Exactly. This
Many
also
coastal,
brings.
Cochin in Trivandrum is completely saline. So
Yeah.
on a war footing, we need to really allow the rainwater to percolate, and make sure that the groundwater aquifers, wherever possible, is recharged, and particularly on the coastal side, and the coastal freshwater aquifers have to be recharged on a war footing. These are all important, very important nature-based solutions one has to think about, with a view to surviving the city and sustain the city.
So, what is there? What is your opinion about the in situ phytoremediation, which is used for wastewater treatment?
You know, first of all,
We're losing you. We are
I
losing your sound.
waste,
We're not able to
I
hear you.
You
Voice is breaking.
okay. Can-
Professor Janakarajan,
can-
your voice is breaking. Some interruption in the internet, I suppose. Sir, if you
can-
can use your
please,
mobile hotspot, it would be a better idea.
please, uh, uh, I don't, I don't call it wastewater.
No, your voice is breaking, sir.
Not,
No problem.
uh,
We can have we can wait for his connection to be
Yeah.
issue to be resolved. So
uh,
Mr. Shah can.
how
Well, Nupurji, I think Janak sir, is it connecting?
mobile hotspot only. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We
No?
can hear you. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
No.
sir. It is intermittent.
Please go ahead. Let's see.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, please continue. We'll see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. It's a little better. You continue. We'll see.
Can you hear now?
Yes, sir. Now
I'm,
you may come to the next question.
connected. You is getting uh, uh, yeah. Uh,
No, it's not on the Janak sir, and
Mr. Shah, you can take up the
yes,
question. Next question.
yeah, I think let me come back to this. And I think this whole issue, something that bothering me, and
that
that is the consumption level of water.
really
Uh, we have been planning cities, and I think we've been we have been essentially managing our cities at about 200 and 250
uh,
liters per capita per day.
Mr.
Now,
Shah, your voice is also very
oh
feeble.
God, no,
If you
but that
can.
is because Janakarajan is trying to come inside.
So I think if
Uh, Janak sir, can you
so
try?
now?
No, we are your voice is still broken.
I
Have
think
you?
Professor Janak, if you may pause, then Mr. Shah can ask the next question, or we may continue. Yes, Mr. Shah, you can take up now.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to ask you is this is the whole issue of
Yeah, yeah.
consumption.
Okay. So I understand you are asking me about the different aspects of water secure cities, right?
Yeah, and consumption. I think uh, is it really possible and necessary to continue serving your city population at 200 liters per capita per day? Uh, would it be prudent to kind of bring it down? And as a matter of fact, in the earlier meetings, I've given examples in terms of how I know people surviving in villages with as little as 220 liters per capita per day, and they're completely healthy, completely fit, and no distortion at all. And therefore, and I do understand the villages are very different from cities. I do understand that this is 2024, not earlier. But talking about cities at 200 liters per capita per day or 130 liters per capita per day probably looks to me in the context of water scarcity a slightly luxury. What do you think and how do you manage this?
About the quantity.
Yes, the consumption pattern.
So consumption pattern is certainly we have to look at the consumption pattern, sir, particularly when our urban cities are facing the issues of scarcity, contamination, pollution, unavailability, pricing, high dependence on tankers. So therefore, we have to see the requirements. We have to optimize our requirements. We have to see. So, for example, for some time, use of this swimming pools were restricted. So this was a very short-term measure. But if we have to see overall the requirements, if 130 is sufficient or 180 is sufficient or 150, so that is the average, something bare minimum which we are assigning. So that quantity will also depend upon how we ensure. So I think quantity is an issue where we have to relook and we have to redefine the value.
But I was asking very specifically, ma'am, that if you are really talking about water security, if you're talking about sustainable water supply over a long period of time, and considering that our management, I think of water resources not been very good. My question is this: that is 130 liters per capita per day or 200 liters per capita per day, is this not excessive? Should we not think about reducing this use? And because it's like cricket, I think runs saved is runs scored. And therefore, do you think there is a possibility, there are ways, there's a mechanism, or there's a thought process which looks at this demand side of the water equation?
Sure. I got your point, sir. So certainly, what I understand is we have to look at different aspects of water security in cities. So there, in my opinion, there are few um, 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 set of, or you can say, we have to see water security in cities with regard to various aspects. For example, we have to see water conservation and the efficiency of what we have with us. So, adoption of water efficient technologies and fixtures. We need to have more public awareness campaigns promoting responsible water use and policies and regulations promoting water conservation practices. So, it should be part of the citizens, their culture. It has to be imbibed. Then, looking at the water supply and security is a very crucial issue. We have to see diversification of water sources for resilience. We have to move out to innovative water resources, investment in water infrastructure and storage systems, particularly measures to address water scarcity risk and ensure long term water security. So, something which is very important on the supply side. Then, looking at the wastewater treatment and reuse, we have to implement advanced wastewater treatment technologies. We cannot rely on the age old conventional technologies. We have to augment the capacities, make them enable to be future ready. So instead of coming up with a new SGPs, if we can look at augmenting the capacities, efficiently utilizing the existing infrastructure, then promotion of water recycling and reuse initiatives, something we can do, reduction of pollution. So if we can have point source pollution abatement there and then, this could be a great source. Then another aspect in the management is the stormwater management. So integration of green infrastructure solutions like biowells, rain gardens, permeable pavements, which can manage stormwater runoffs, sustainable drainage systems to prevent flooding and improve water quality, strategies to minimize the impact of urbanization on water bodies. So this is something on the stormwater management, I would say. And also another aspect is the water quality and pollution control, as I said. So we have to see the point source as well as non-point source pollution through runoffs, urban runoffs and agricultural runoffs. And also we have to see and the integrated water management. So a holistic approach to water management, including coordination between different departments, stakeholders, cross-sectional sectorial planning is very important, and collaboration between the regions is very important part of integrated water management. And coming to almost my last few points, innovation and technology has a great role. So we have to involve civil society, the researchers, the NGOs, whatever innovation is coming across the labs, it should be translated to the concept of urban living labs. So then governance, policy framework, resilience, adaptation, education, and community engagement, I would say, these are some of the measures if we have to have water secure cities. I hope.
Dr. Nupuji, I think let me kind of ask a very specific question. A, because you're working with the
Sir, a little
ministry.
louder.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but little louder.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, better, sir.
What I'm trying to kind of ask is this: that you work with the national government, you work with the ministry, you work with TADI, you are a researcher, and you are also an innovator. What I want to ask you a specific question, and that is this. In the last few years, working with the government, or which are the three most important ideas uh, that you think have come forth from the water sector? Something, and I'm talking both in the context of urban water, and I know water is one thing which we should not be, I think, talking in terms of urban rural binary, but because our platform is urban, I'm asking this question: which are the three most important critical innovations that you have come across in the last few years in the water sector, which you would say, okay, this is something which will take us very far. This is something which would kind of, deliver us reasonably good solutions. Which are those three? And I'm specific in asking this question. I want to hear which three you think are very important.
Sure. So very, very interesting question, and I'm glad. Particularly, you are asking this question with my understanding of working with the governments, and particularly, I'm working with National Mission for Clean Ganga, and also my whole journey as a water leader has begun with the 2014 launch of the Namami Gange National Mission. So that actually it was so motivating for me that I really got teaching from basic sciences, nanotechnology. I moved to water technology, and something which inspired me is the innovation which we can bring as scientists on the table and help our governments and utilities in our national missions. So you asked me of the three ideas.
Right.
So sir, what I have understood, it's not any political statement or general. I'm just talking as a scientist. What I have understood is the change in the perception, the change of whole approach of water management, which we have seen in last 10 years. And the three prominent things which I have observed is, first is the whole idea of having a water a holistic approach. It's not just looking at one aspect of pollution abatement or other aspect of flow management. But however, the national missions today, they are more focused on water. Many of them are there, and today's water missions, they are looking at the holistic solutions. So first, I think, is the idea on the holistic approach, which I see on in the Namami Gange program, I can say. They are looking at the unpolluted flows. They are looking at the flows, biodiversity, um, uh, what you say, communities around the Ganges and all that. And the same program is now being taken up to other six basin states. So this is the first thing. Second idea or the second innovation which has been taken up is there has been always a huge blame game, because within a city, within a territory, there are different departments. So having one ministry, having various departments under one ministry, and also having at a divisional level or at a city level, one city, one operator approach is another second point I would say is a great idea, where the whole responsibility of the city wastewater treatment management has been given to one operator. So that kind of blame game can be is mitigated. And third very innovative approach which I have observed in these national missions is on the for example, earlier it was more on having the network, pipe network. But what about the places which do not have the sewer network? So here, what the third point I would say innovative approach is to tap the various drains and have a STP around that area. Similarly, coming up for a CETP, a common effluent treatment plant among the units. So then trapping a diversion of drains. So this is third approach I would say for me are the three approaches which have very well helped in um treatment management of the water resources.
Oh,
I
very
hope I
good.
have answered well.
No, that's very good. I think I just wanted to kind of supplement, I think, this response to another question. And that is the whole aspect of institutional innovations.
Yeah.
What have they been? Because you see, one of the problems, when we look up at our cities, be that municipal governance, be that municipal finance, be that delivery of services. One of the problems we are facing continuously is inadequate institution, antiquated those who are not really able to deliver. And we have not been very innovative in terms of generating and creating new institutions. In the context of water and water management in cities, what kind of institutional innovation do you think has happened? You did talk about mindset issue at this point in terms of saying it holistically is one part. Institutionally, and of course we also manage that, I think, both the entire thing to be managed by the one institutional sources that we talked about. What are the other innovations that you think, institutional innovations you have come
Okay.
across, which you think are
Interesting, sir.
very
So
interesting?
I understand. So innovation with regard to institutional innovation, as you have mentioned. So
Yes.
here also a lot of institutions have been created. For example, the one which I'm taking care and leading is the NMCG, National Mission for Clean Ganga Terry Center of Excellence on Water Reuse. So what this government has majorly done is that the institutions which were they had the expertise in those areas, they have formed the center of excellences or institutions within them. For example, CSE is a great organization. For years they have been working on fecal sludge management. So with them, they have come up with a national program on fecal sludge management. Terry has been working on wastewater treatment technologies, water reuse. So with us, they have come up with forming a center of excellence on water reuse. With wildlife formation, they have worked with the restoration of the Gangetic dolphins and study of the aquatic life around and within the Ganges belt. So likewise, and with NIUA, we have a very good example of having the River City alliances. So this way, government has recognized the strength of institutions other in addition to IITs, the strength of NGOs, strength of various organizations who have been in their capacity working for years, and added strength with this kind of innovation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nupur, can you hear me? I have joined again.
Oh,
Okay,
yes, sir, we
okay,
can hear
okay.
you. Welcome back.
I'm
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry about it, but I've been
No
hearing
problem.
you. I've been hearing you, but except that my
No
I
problem.
just go down
Yeah,
once in a way. Yeah.
great, sir.
Please, sir. Please go ahead. Oh, we lost him again. Well, I think if he doesn't come back, Nupurji, there's other questions that I wanted to ask you. That is and you are, it seems from what you're saying, you're involved in doing this. I've been hearing about Ganga cleaning for 30 years, and absolutely important issue. A great initiative. I think. There's been persistence in terms of where do we stand in terms of cleaning Ganga? And I'm not talking about cleaning Ganga per se, the river alone, but the whole aspect of cleaning rivers in order to kind of get a source of water clean and unpolluted.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so very, very interesting and very sensitive question, I would say, and very important also because this is a question which each one of us have with us. So overall, if you see a river cleaning program, sir, it's not enough uh, for any government. It's first of all, it's not a duty of just the government or a particular. And first of all, we have to understand that river cleaning is a continuous process. So it's not about 10 years, 30 years, 50 years. We have to continue with this river cleaning program because it's just like cleaning is a regular exercise. Pollution will come, and rivers have a natural tendency of cleaning themselves. So river will clean itself provided we don't put the pollution into it. If we can mitigate, if we can prevent pollution going into the river, either from both from point source and non-point source. So this is something which we have to understand. And uh, every time every government has to put in efforts for river cleaning. So this is something we all should understand, that it's not just a Ganga action plan or Yamuna action plan or Namami Gange will do. It has to be a continuous program all through all the generations.
Uh,
And
uh,
where we stand today, as you rightly asked, is something where we see, as I told you in my previous answer to the last question, there has been a lot of innovative approaches which the government has adopted, and as a result of it we see the change in field. You can see the change there, and more effort, of course, as I said, it's a continuous process. We have to put in more efforts, and now it's a public participation also. So now people are realizing, and it's a movement now. So we are progressing, and it is delivering, and we all have to make our own contributions and help the government in these national missions and programs.
Ma'am, let me ask you, I think Janakarajan is trying very hard, he's not coming through. So let me ask a question which I'm very curious about, and I'll be very interested in hearing from a scientist or so deeply involved. Ma'am, we as Hindus consider Ganga Maya. Ganga is mother. No Hindu wants to die without a drop of Ganga water in his mouth. It's a passport to nirvana, to moksha.
Yeah.
No, and I think and that is going on for generations and nothing, and that just centuries, and that has not changed. What I'm trying to understand is this: is Ganga is Maya? Is Ganga is so important that it's a passport to moksha? Why on earth are we polluting it so badly? If it's our mother, would anyone kind of, disfigure his or her mother as we are doing? So, what is the psychological reason? Because it is not that someone has told us to call our river mothers. We have been looking at rivers as mother always. What is so in our culture, what is so in our life, what is so in our education, what is so our living, which has allowed us to pollute our river as badly as we've done.
So you are asking what has led to the for us to pollute the river despite
Why
having
are we, if Ganga is Maya, why I'm polluting my mother? Why I'm sickening my mother? Why I'm doing all I can to disfigure it.
yes. Uh, Actually, sir, when you are saying why we are polluting, so
Yes.
this is probably, see, we have high reverence towards our rivers and we say they are mothers. So it
Yes.
is fine. Those who understand, they value it and we are doing our bit. But those who do not understand, so the pollution, the river pollution, the main source of river pollution, the cause is our ignorance, our lack of understanding that we have no priority for treating wastewater like it's end of the pipe. What When I visit, when I am meeting people in different stakeholders I'm talking about, they say, madam, how does it affect? We are having water from our RO, so wastewater is not our priority. We can't spend this much on wastewater. So this kind of irresponsible behavior or lack of understanding that it's not just about us drinking an RO water, a clear water, but what about those crores of people who are using the surface water or the groundwater, which is hugely contaminated? They are using that. They don't have ROs. So this kind of lack of responsibility towards our environment, towards sustainability, towards a responsible citizenship is something which is, despite knowing that it is a mother, we are polluting it.
Nupur, can I come in now?
Yeah,
Please,
definitely,
please,
sir. Definitely.
we are just substituting you, sir.
Kirtiba, you have raised a very sensitive
Very
question,
sensitive
actually.
question.
Extremely sensitive. And let me try answer
Yeah, sure, sir.
your question. Now, I see two issues here.
Uh,
The first issue is, as you said rightly, people have got lots of belief and they've got lots of faith. Okay, if you go to, for instance, Bagmati River, which is a tributary of Ganges, which you would see in Kathmandu city, I've seen there are many platforms across the banks of the river where the dead bodies are half burnt and then thrown into the river. The belief is that you go to the heaven straight away if it is done, and so also happening in India, and dead bodies are thrown, and I mean all kinds of things are happening. See, this is one issue. The second issue is, no, our approach has been, although on the one hand we say that it's river Ganga is our mother and so on, but then our approach has been one of development centric. We are still extremely development centric, and which is really causing enormous damage and disastrous to the ecology and environment. And you tell me, is there any river in the country, not just Ganges, is there any river in the country which is clean and unpolluted? In fact, Professor Ramasamy Iyer, who is no more, he wrote a paper, he wrote a book, and a book is In Search of a Living River. He tried his best. I was part of the team. We tried our best to in search of a living river. There are no living rivers. These rivers live only during the flood times, only during the monsoon months, and there will be flow water for a few days or 1 month at the most. The rest of the time, it carries nothing but sewage and the urban effluent. And not only that, it carries all kinds of waste. So that is the situation. Now, unfortunately, all these wastes are also carried into the sea. Sea being the largest dustbin of the world, it ultimately keeps and everything there. And then we are not only polluting our river, and through the river, we are also polluting the ocean. That's the situation. It's actually, so many other issues, beliefs, and a lack of enthusiasm by the government, and also myopic planning. It's absolutely myopic. See, for instance, if I am given a license for industry, I am also given the license to pollute the river. When I pollute the river, am I charged? What am I doing? Is it ever called a criminal activity? See, you can create, you can manufacture billions and billions of worth of goods and services. You can do that, but can you create a river? You can't. This is an ecological unit. People don't have that kind of a feeling. So unless we have that commitment, these are going to be ever happening, and we are going to spend and billions and trillions of rupees in river cleaning. In the name of river cleaning, we do nothing, unfortunately.
Janak Saab, I think you have lost a very unfortunately huge amount of time. And I'm not going to worry about stopping this at 7:30. In order to kind of, in order to kind of take care of the lost time. So even if it continues, even if people who are listening to us leave, don't worry about that. I think let us use this opportunity to continue this conversation. And therefore, even if you have to continue till 8 o'clock, unless you have difficulty, I'm very happy to get in order to compensate for the loss that we have time. And therefore, if you could rejoin Nupurji and Janak Saab in terms of where you were essentially, I'm a caretaker and just went on asking questions, as they came. I had not even thought about them. But now that Janak looks pretty secure in terms of his position on the screen, can you continue, Janak Saab?
Yeah, I have one question to Nupur,
Yeah.
which is I think it's extremely important. In fact, you touched upon these issues, Nupur, about the climate secure cities and so on. But what do you think should be the kind of policy framework to make the cities climate secure and climate resilient? At the moment, there are quite a large number of climate action programs in many cities, and many agencies are involved. I don't see anything really happening. But what do you think should be happening? Why these climate action programs are insufficient, and what are the urgent needs? Do we have the time even to implement? Because the things that are happening today, touching the tipping point is pretty close. So what are we going to do?
Yes, actually, sir. Unfortunately, we are when we have been planning for all these years, we did not take climate change or climate action so seriously. But now, when we are at the helm of affairs, now we are bothered about climate secure cities. So our we have massively failed during those early stages. But nevertheless, today, if we have to speak, we have to look at the climate secure cities, the climate resilient cities. And when we say this, um, uh, first of all, you and I, the audience here, can understand this. But it has to be truly understood when it comes to the planning. Those people who are responsible for the urban planning design, it has to be part of the education system in a large scale, right from the graduation to higher levels. And we have a lot of examples in the world, which I just came across recently. If I may cite those examples, and probably if we can have that kind of understanding in our planning. So, for example, I just recently came across Brisbane, which is having which has learned to live with the floods through increased flood awareness and preparedness to build a more resilient cities. So that kind of awareness and preparedness is missing in our planning, and also from citizen point of view, it has to be more awareness and preparedness for flood-like situation, drought-like situation, and what as a citizen we can do. So both ways the awareness has to be generated. Then also I came across a recent example where Copenhagen is also addressing the impacts of climate change through their climate adaptation plan and a new cloud burst management plan. This was very interesting. I came across this recently, that they have a CMP cloud burst management plan which was launched in 2011, which is world's first city-wide plan for controlling stormwater for 100-year storm. And here is the learning for us, that through such a program, it proposes infrastructure level to manage stormwater in the city with solutions that collect, delay, and lead stormwater to final outlets in the harbor or a sea coast, instead preventing entry into the sewers. So if such a small thing, but such vital, if we can prevent entry in the sewers, we can certainly prevent a lot of other issues. Also, another example I came across is the rain patterns. If we see sea level rise could be solved through adaptation strategies, if we can have enable regenerative water service, rain gardens, if we can have and we can design urban spaces which can reduce flood risk, which can mitigate, or we have to be more prepared for such extreme situations. So if we can have these things into perspective, I'm sure we can be well prepared, and we can manage and we can truly have the climate resilient cities in place.
Nupur, I mean, that's extremely important issues that you raised. Basically, you're trying to make the point about the education, the water, climate literacy programs, and so on, adaptation, and so on. It's very important. But don't you think that fundamentally the existing institutional system that we have is really failing to address this critical issue? We still have a kind of a disintegrated approach in addressing this issue. So what I would suggest is the primary importance is to look at the need for integrated urban water management as a strategy for the long-term solution for climate-induced urban floods and droughts, because we come across a situation either excess water or no water. Excess water is flood and no water is drought. Okay, so therefore we need to have an integrated approach. See, I always make the point that if you take care of your flood, you will take care of your drought. If you take care of your drought, you will take care of your flood. You don't have this integrated approach. And what is really necessary is to mainstream all your developmental activity, developmental spending to really to address the issue of climate mitigation, climate resilience, and climate adaptation. You really have to, the need of the hour is to really mainstream it. Don't look at issues separately. For instance, we spend how many thousand crores of rupees in river rejuvenation? Are we really spending it in the right manner in order to address the climate issue? We don't. But we are doing all kinds of, Nupur, sorry to say, we do all kinds of cosmetic interventions. I call them nearly sheer cosmetic interventions, which are not going to help. So it is very important that we need to identify the local solutions which are eco-friendly, and we need to really rediscover our hydrology, rediscover your thousands of water bodies that exist around your city, thousands of channels. All these things you really need to discover and make sure that they are there, and go with nature. You are at the moment you are isolating yourself from the nature. You are getting away from the nature. Go with the nature. Protect the nature. Natural capital is the key. If you lose your natural capital, that's it. You are losing your lung space. You can't even breathe. So these are very important. And also very important is that we need to make sure that every drop of water is accounted, what is called rainfall accounting. Every drop of sewage water, polluted water, or what you call the wastewater is recycled. If you don't do it, I mean, the days are not too far away where all of us are going to face a very severe problem. And we need to think about evolving scientific urban climate adaptation and disaster risk reduction strategies, keeping in mind there are limits to adaptation, which means there are vulnerable sections of the population who won't be able to adapt. There are limits for them to adapt, but you need to give them the push. So you want to make them really resilient, where the government has to really make sure that they spend. And therefore, it is very important that all our expenses are spent in building and enhancing the urban resilience capacities.
Definitely.
I think this has to be integrated.
Sure.
That's what I would think.
Well said. And in fact, Professor Janak, you can also elaborate what is your opinion and what is the new concept on urban labs or the urban living labs? If you
Yeah,
can
okay.
elaborate on that.
Yeah. See, the urban lab as a concept has emerged many years ago, and these urban labs are live in many cities across the world, including cities like New York and so on. But unfortunately, these concepts are still at the extremely rudimentary stage in India. And the idea of urban lab is very simple. See, at the moment, a single issue is handled by many agencies in our country. Water is handled by 10 agencies, and all of them really look at in the different directions and approach in different directions. So the idea is to establish a single entity called urban lab, and without the permission of the urban lab, without a consultation discussion in the urban lab, no developmental activity for the city should get out for implementation. That's the idea. For instance, supposing you really think about river restoration. That river restoration should be discussed first in the urban lab, and this is basically kind of a multi-stakeholder think tank which
Yeah.
has got a civil society, experts as well as the government agencies. All of them together have got to discuss, and this think tank should really discuss in 360 degrees and make sure that the money is spent properly for on river restoration. They will ask, for instance, issues like a river restoration. What are you going to restore? Are you restoring the river to the extent of what it existed 100 years ago? Are you only reclaiming some land or floodplains were lost? Issues of that kind. There are many issues that we need to think about. So the urban labs are extremely important. It is the coordinating agency. Urban labs will be the coordinating agency to really bring together all the issues, all the agencies together into one platform for brainstorming and then for implementation. So this is done in many cities, but not in India. We are still in an extremely rudimentary stage.
No, sir. Here I would like to add that as Terry, we have been doing a lot of work in the urban living, in the urban lab space, and particularly there is a program called Urban Living Labs in Terry,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
led by the infrastructural program of Terry, where we have in Goa, in Vishakhapatnam, where we have the urban living lab concept, where the all stakeholders they organize something. There is inputs from all stakeholders, and there is something which is physically present over there, and all
Hmm.
innovations, newer ideas are implemented at a pilot scale, and those
Hmm.
studies from the pilot are coming as the learnings from the urban living labs. So in India now it is picking up, and Terry has taken the lead on the urban living lab program.
Very good. I'm very glad about that. I'm extremely glad. See, this issue needs to be publicized. This
Yeah,
issue needs to
definitely.
be publicly debated.
They actually,
Also, Nupur, just one other point I would like to add. The urban labs, suppose if it is instituted or constituted in a particular city, the first task of the urban lab, as it happened in many other parts of the country, other parts of the world, is to really understand its location.
yeah,
We don't have the knowledge of the location of the city, whether it's a coastal or inland
yeah,
or a hill city. You need to really have that kind of a documentation, data,
really,
rainfall accounting, and the drainage system, and use and abuse of the drains, and all kinds of. You see, you mindlessly construct stormwater drains in all cities, mindlessly spending thousands of crores, and unfortunately these stormwater drains do not serve the desired purpose. Why is that it is happening? Because it is not done properly, and people have what they have in mind is nothing but putting cement and having some kind of a canal and make sure that money is spent. There are
yeah,
river
I
front
understand. I
development,
understand.
canal front development, tank front development. These are cosmetic solutions. Should
Sir,
not, I mean,
Professor Janak, I understand your point. What I'm talking about, what Terry has taken the lead on the infrastructural side, which means
mhm.
we are talking of the buildings, the EVs, the transport, all this thing. But certainly we can have urban living labs with focus on water issues. So
Yeah.
this is something which we have to seriously think, and maybe I will find out if institutions like NIUA through River City Alliances has taken up this. So that would be a great idea on taking urban living labs for water specific agenda, and where what you have suggested, we can think of designing supply side, demand side, management. All those things can be looked at a pilot scale, and findings can be propagated and taken forward. So
yeah, sure. That's a good
great.
idea. Yes.
Also, one thing more, Professor Janak, in continuation, what we are talking of urban space. So, what is your opinion? Is the role of municipal development authorities in the urban planning and water security in the cities?
You know, it's something the issue which I have been talking about for a very long time. Kirtibai knows about it. You see, the urban development or the metropolitan development authorities, all over the country, they are extremely myopic in their approach. Extremely myopic in the sense that they think that their concern is only about land use planning. Okay, and in the land use planning, they are really very blind in approach. Like they can even convert the wetland in for some construction purposes, for laying roads, and water bodies also they can reclassify and then make sure that they can use. I mean, it's a blind approach. They can't do that. So therefore, I always maintain that the two issues. One, first thing that they should do, metropolitan development authorities, is to demarcate the lands which they cannot touch. They should demarcate that these are the ecological hotspots which cannot be touched, which need to be protected, which can never be used for any kind of a developmental activity. That's called no development zone. And today they are not doing it. Yeah, it's quite
They are
open.
doing reverse, sir. They are doing reverse. They are creating SEZs. So
Yeah,
instead of not having
yeah,
the
yeah. And
so,
second, the thing is, the urban development authority, metropolitan development authority, should not only be concerned about land use planning, they should have an integrated approach of land and water, because
yeah,
water is stored only in the land, either under surface or subsurface. So they should have the concern to really have that integrated approach of the land and water planning approach. They don't. So unless their approach changes, we are going to have serious difficulties, very serious difficulties.
definitely.
For instance, Chennai, the wetland called Pallikanna marshland, total area was 55 square kilometers. Today it is reduced to 5 square kilometers.
Oh my
The
God.
rest, the rest are occupied with the roads, ring roads, IT corridor, hospitals, big,
The same with
housing colonies.
Bengaluru. Same with
Yeah,
Bengaluru.
yes,
Desilting is going on for years, 3-4 years,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you never know that land will be encroached by builders, and
absolutely.
it is
And
gone.
yeah, and also in Mumbai, for instance, the wetlands, mangroves are encroached for all kinds of purposes, and so also in Chennai, about 8,000, 9,000 hectares of land, coastal wetlands are encroached and occupied, and we are losing all the floodplains. And then we are talking about and complaining about the flood. These are the floodplains. You occupy it, encroach it, and complain about the flood. So these are all the problems. You see, so it is very important that the Metropolitan Development Authority should not be blind. Actually, they should not sleep, but they should really make sure that the ecological hotspots for no reason can be occupied and can never be used for developmental activity, and they should be declared as an ecological hotspots, and they should be declared as a no development zone. Unless they do it by law, I think nothing can be done, and we are going to lose all our lands. That's the problem.
Hey,
Janak
great.
Saab, can I intervene for a second?
Yeah, yes,
Sure,
please.
sir.
No, because I don't think we should forget. I think people are leaving us, but there are 14 people still left.
They have
And
the
if you
question
don't mind,
answers.
if you don't mind, I would like to kind of look at two questions that I found in the Q&A box.
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
I?
definitely, sir.
Okay,
Definitely.
the first question is until both of you decide who wants to answer. One is from Vincent Pucha, and he said, to what extent do private bore wells impact the water security of urban areas in India? And is there a necessity to increase regulation? This is the first question. This is on bore wells. Second question is from Kamla Menon, and Kamla ji is saying, in dry areas like Jaipur, Delhi, Kanpur, the rivers and aquifers are there, but can urban wastewater be recycled to recharge the rivers? So these are two questions. You decide who wants to answer this.
Well, Nupur, I will just make observations. Then you can
sure.
you can answer. The first, the second question is actually, is no. I would say straight away no, because the used water, either as a domestic sewage or industrial effluent, unless they are treated to the prescribed standard by the WHO, should never be used for recharging purposes, because this is going to result in permanent contamination. Because you have to be extremely careful in recharging groundwater, and even the flood water that you see after the rainfall should not be recharged straight away, because they need to go through certain filtration process. Only then should be recharged. Therefore, there is no question about sewage or effluent even after the treatment cannot be recharged. They have to maintain certain standards. Only after the prescribed standard they can be used for recharging purposes, number one. Other issue is about the borewells in the cities. And certainly there is a need for groundwater regulation. It has to come up in all cities. But deep borewells in many cities, even in Ahmedabad, in Rajasthan, in Jaipur, in many cities, there are many deep borewells. All these deep borewells should be appropriately redesigned with a view to recharging groundwater during the times of high rainfall. I think that's the best way to recharge groundwater. Otherwise, the water will not infiltrate to that extent of 500 feet, 600 feet, and all. Water will not go through rainfall. It has to be artificially recharged. I think it's a good idea that failed borewells are made use of for recharging groundwater.
So to add to your answer, I would just like to highlight through figures the first question. So the first question, I'm just citing again the recent example of Bengaluru, because I got a chance to write in my article. So I have the figures with me. So when we see at the Bengaluru situation, with over 10,995 government borewells in the city, water levels had decreased in 3,700 borewells, and 1214 borewells have completely dried up. So the groundwater levels have dropped by more than 1,000 feet in many areas, which further aggravates the water crisis. So when we go to the question, is particular to what extent do private borewells impact the water security of urban areas, is there is a necessity. So certainly when I'm giving figures for the government borewells, private borewells, they impact the water security immensely, because private borewells, we are unmindfully going to any extent. We are just digging more than 1,000 even, because for a particular private operator or the private player, it is just thinking about itself. So it is making a huge impact, and definitely we need to increase regulation. We need to see penalties should be enforced. So the enforcement should be very, very stringent in case of private borewells. Looking at the second question, in dry areas like Jaipur, Delhi, Kanpur, the rivers and aquifers are there, but can urban wastewater be? So as rightly Professor Janak has said, see, we cannot unmindfully, again, we cannot just unmindfully treat wastewater and as a point of recharge in the rivers. So see, the answer to this problem is, what we can do is, we should holistically, when we look at the solution, what should be our approach? Our approach for recharging should be the nature-based solutions, rainwater harvesting, that going directly in the groundwater or aquifer recharge, that is fine. But if we want to recharge the rivers, we cannot put the we are already doing, the treated water is being put in the lakes and the rivers, but certainly we have to be mindful for the groundwater. This is my take on this.
Thank you, sir. If it's it's 7:45,
Yeah.
and I know, and I'm very aware that we have lost a huge amount of time for Janak Raj. Janak Saab, you think there is something very important that you must say, and you didn't have time to say, which you would like to say? We
In fact,
will.
I
You-
covered all
No,
his
no, no.
questions.
I think fine. I'm fine. I think we're already delayed. I'm really sorry. My
No, no,
apologies,
no, 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 no,
Kirti
not
bhai.
at, not
I
at
was
all,
just
not at
out
all.
of my control. I couldn't help it really.
No,
So
no,
no
no, no.
problem,
I
sir.
think
It happens in online mode. We all are well aware of it.
only thing that has happened today, and I'm very sad about it, is this that you won't believe me. We have been doing this webinar series for 3 years, and this is 113th. And we have more than what about 250 hours of recording and conversation. And I have been proud in saying, and this is a credit to Zoom, that in last so many years we have just lost only 1 minute
Oh,
in last so many years, and today we lost about 35 minutes in
oh
one
my
single
goodness.
day. So
I'm sorry.
Zoom's record is gone for a toss. I'll write to them. This is what happened. It's not their fault, but this happened. But we're very sorry that it got disrupted, and I'm very glad and grateful that Nupurji was open, and I think allowed me to ask some questions, and she was very
My
good.
pleasure, sir. It's my
Ja-
pleasure.
Janak Saab, you've been very kind that despite this harassment and this trouble, you continue.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you this that most people would have given up. You tried, I think, and
Yeah.
finally got in.
So
Uh,
resilience. He has
that
shown the resilience.
was
As a water
wonderful.
leader, he has shown the
So,
resilience.
so thank you very much. I'm warning you, as I said earlier, and Janak Sahib has already received my letter that we are thinking and planning town hall on water, and we are going to invite both of you to join and help us with that. Idea is not only to kind of discuss and talk and get 30, 40 experts together. Idea also to put together a white paper in terms of how should country go about doing it in the context of India's cities and water. So thank you very much to both of you, to Nupurji. Thank you, Janak Saab, I think, for this. And thank you once again. Chitrakshi, I forget all the time. This time, because I forget, I have kept you and thank you in the beginning. And Bomaji, if you're still there, thank you very much for your relentless effort, behind the scene which makes this possible. So
Sir, I
we
have
are
one thing
very
to
grateful.
offer.
Please.
Yeah. What I think is after your this initiative, I think from the Center of Excellence, if you would like, your association could be association could be on board for the Center of Excellence, and if you would like in any way your white paper to come from the COE, so we can work together and we can come in different ways. We can have
Of
one white paper, then you can also document your few selected dialogue series to be documented, and jointly it can be brought through the COE. So these are some of the offerings that we can discuss separately.
Oh,
How we can have
wonderful.
your organization on board. It's such a valuable contribution. And similarly, Professor Janak, the what you are heading and you are doing with your NGO or the organization, if that can be on board. And so I really welcome both of you with your organizations to be on board on the Center of Excellence.
Nupur,
Nupurji, what?
actually, I say indicated before. I think we should work together on the climate literacy programs, which you yourself
Exactly,
mentioned.
exactly. So I think Mr. Shah and Professor Janak, you can lead the climate program in the Center of Excellence. So separately we'll discuss and let us take
Okay.
that vertical forward.
Oh,
I'll take it from there. From here.
What I suggest is this. Thank you, Nupurji, for giving me this opportunity. What I suggest is this. I would not like this the town hall on water to be done exclusively by INHAF, and I would like both of your institutions to join as partners and do it together. We'll do it together. Rupurji, I'll write to you, and if you agree, we will do this together.
Sure, this is
It will be
exactly.
joint effort of all these institutions. And it has to be a joint effort. I'm always talking about this collaboration and co-working. This is not the work of an individual or an agency. We all have got to get together. And I will send an invitation to join institutionally on this.
Exactly, and this is I'm especially why I'm mentioning, of course, as a partners. This week only we had a meeting with the Secretary Department of Water Resources. So, Madam Secretary, Madam insisted that this Center of Excellence should have knowledge base, more of the knowledge creation. So,
Yeah.
I think whatever you have gone through these dialogue series, if that could be documented and could be part, so it could reach out to the ministry, it could reach out to the right stakeholders. So something we should devise.
We'll talk about this
Sure,
very.
definitely.
Thank
It
you,
will be our
Nupurji.
pleasure. Thank you, sir.
We'll work this out. I'll call you sometime, and I think we'll get this going. So thank you very much, Professor Janak. Thank you, Nupurji. I'm very sorry that it's been delayed by about half an hour, but it's been very worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, audience. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks, sir. Thanks,
Thank you.
Professor Janakarajan. Bye-bye.